Okay. If you're going to take your PNP exam, you have to memorize Table 3-1 and understand all the information in it. We have process management groups across the top. Those are the columns. You have knowledge areas down the left-hand side. Those are the rows. And we're going to need to remember all this information. Note that the project time management, risk management, and to a lesser extent the human resources management have multiple items and cells. So when you draw this table out from scratch on blank paper for the exam, which you need to do quickly, you're going to have to make these rows taller to accommodate the information as you write it down. Also, because of the word wrapping that you see that they did by making all the columns of equal width in the actual book, which this is a screenshot of, I make the planning process group a bit wider. So here's the tool to actually get it done. So the first thing you're going to note is draw out a table that has 7 columns and 13 rows. Note we talked about the time row needing to be a little bit taller, and the risk row needing to be a little bit taller, the human resources row, and as I said, I make the planning row a little bit wider. Okay, so there's, or excuse me, planning column. So there's some things to note. Just practice this. It takes a little bit of practice. Now we do have 7 columns and 13 rows. That's more than the table has, but you'll see what we use them for in a moment. The next thing we're going to do is remember a mnemonic device that gives us all the knowledge areas. In school, the calculus quiz has caused really poor scores. So we count down 3 cells, 1, 2, 3, and then go to the next one and start filling them in. I for in schools, the calculus quiz has caused really poor scores. And that's going to identify for you the project initiation, scope, time, cost, quality, human resources, HR, communications, risk, procurement, and stakeholders. So that's what that's getting out for you. The next thing is you're going to remember this phone number, 667-434-3644. Just try it a few times. It's burned into my memory now, and that tells you how many different knowledge processes are going to be in each row. So there's those numbers coming down. So that's why we have these narrow columns on the left hand side. These two, they're for kind of control information, labeling information, and we're going to use 3 up on the top to do the same thing. So the actual data, the process information, is going to go in this area. So next, to start to fill out the top, in PE, my cousin cries. So this is going to be our project initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and then finally closure. Okay, and on the test, or if you need to, you can actually write out the words as you unpack these from your head. The next thing you're going to do is remember the number 2, 2, 4, 8, 11, 2. 2, 24, 8, 11, 2. When we looked at the matrix before they add the information on it on the previous slide, you may have noted that there's 2 items in the project initiation, and then there's 24 in planning, a bunch of stuff there. Remember, a bunch of stuff in time, a bunch of stuff in risk, and a little bit in HR as well, in execution. And then finally there's 8 execution steps, 11 in monitoring and control, and only 2 here. So there's 2 on the ends. The next thing we're going to do is fill out some things that will help us remember what the first starting letter of the different process elements that go in the different cells. There's only 2 of them, so there's 2 letters, a D and an I. Remember Lady Di, however you want to do that. DI. So the top one, they go in order. So the top one's going to be here. It starts with a D. The bottom one is going to be here and starts with an I, etc. The next thing is a longer phrase to remember, and I got this off of a video of another gentleman that provided a YouTube video. But basically, dastardly candies double crossing dandelions seated in Patty's pots. It's just a strange enough phrase that it does stick in your mind, and so you'll need to put that out, and then remember plan 10. That means you'll have 10 things in this column that start with the word plan, and I've colored them red, and we'll color them red as they come up. Then the next thing for execution in response to Candy's dandelion fiasco here is Dandy Patty's awesome daisies must make Candy mad. So here we are in the execution column, DPADMMCM, and this is going to have a manage 3. There are 3 things in here that start with the word manage. And then finally, for monitoring and control, my projects vary, should be plural, I'll fix it later, but so MPV is going to go up here, and then we're going to put control 8, monitoring and control. Many things start with control here. And then finally, in the closing column, there's only 2 items, so you can just remember close 2. You don't have to remember that. You effectively already have it here. So now we have column number information that tells us how many items in each column, and in row information that tells us how many items total in each row. And so we'll be able to use these 2 numbers to know how many things should or shouldn't be in a cell. So the next thing we're going to do is fill out the corners. Create develop project charter, remember S starts with D, is going to be in the initiation phase under the, is going to be in the integration row, knowledge area, under the initiating process group. And then the next thing we're going to have down here under stakeholder management is we're going to actually ID the stakeholders. And then finally, under closing, you're going to close the project or phase. You're noticing I'm using abbreviations here. I recommend that. There's not enough there's not enough space in here to write out everything unless you have very tiny handwriting. And then close procurements. Just because we close our project, we need to make sure we're squared away with the contracts with the vendor as an outside organization is my thought for the rationale on that. Okay, so there's only 2 items in this column. We've got them accounted for. Those are accounted for, so we know the rest of this stuff stays blank throughout the process. And so we're going to do that, and I fill up these cells just so I'm not worried about thinking whether something goes there or not. I want to do this very quickly, and we can logically determine that those are unused. The next thing is block blank your monitoring and control. Remember the phrase, you can't control HR. I think many people can relate to that. So this is going to be blank in the monitoring and control process group column. And then the next phrase is going to be, you can't execute scope, time, cost, or risk. If I told you to execute scope now, execute time now, it doesn't tend to go with that. Conceptually, or at least that's a way to remember it. So in the execute column where we have scope, time, cost, and then risk down here, you can go ahead and X those out as well because they're just going to stay blank forever. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is fill in monitor control. Remember, we have 8 things that start with the word control, and so I'm going to start bottom up here. And we just need to remember what these stand for. So this is stakeholder, so we're going to control stakeholder. Well, we're not going to put wires in their head and make them dance with remote control, but we do have to speak with them, so that's going to be engagement, right? The next thing up is control your procurements, okay? The next thing up is we're going to, of course, control risk, so you can kind of seeing a pattern here. Control communications, yep, that can be controlled. HR's out. But quality can be controlled. The budgetary or cost can be controlled. And then time is control schedule, not control time. That's where we're going to change a little bit from actually queuing off of the knowledge group first letter. And then finally control scope. And then when we're coming up, now that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we've accounted for all 8 of these, so now we're going to go by first letter. So the first thing is going to be monitor and control the project work, okay? And I abbreviated it down there. The next thing is going to start with P, okay? And so that's going to be perform integrated, I abbreviate it, change control. And yes, you need to memorize these, but basically I'm going to run through this video again and just click through with a few pauses so you can actually start from that point and just use this as a memorization application, basically a little trainer for you. All right, so now we have 6 items in this row, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so we expect that we have something in every cell under the planning group, so that's going to be 5, and then we have something under execution. So we're done there. The next thing we're going to do is spin the V, which is our last letter, to validate scope. That makes sure that all the deliverables and things are accepted. And then we're going to now fill in our execution. So we've got 3 manages. That doesn't. There's not very many. We'll kind of note that for later. But in this one, I go top to bottom and just start queuing off the mnemonic abbreviations. So I remembered that I need to direct and manage the project work. Okay, so that spins the D, and then again we have 6 items here. We're going to get one here because there's again something in every cell in planning, so we know we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're done there. There's nothing else. These X's tell us we skip all the way down to quality, and the next thing we're going to do is P, perform quality assurance. And then finally, down in human resources, think about building teams. This is the doing part of the project. And so when you build teams, you have to get them together, assemble the team. You have to figure out what their roles are, what their knowledge levels are, and then play that like an orchestra conductor and develop the team. And once they're developed, they're good to go. You're going to manage. So again, acquire, develop, and manage your team. So that's going to give us 3 of the 4 items in this row. We know one's there because there's something again in every planning step, so you know we're done. And there's one of the manages coming up. And then the next thing we're going to do, and you can see we've got DPADM. DPADM is another M, and that's going to be manage our communications. Okay, so there's our second manage. We're burning this X for risk here. There's nothing to do. You don't execute risk. Again, we discussed that earlier. So down in procurements, we're going to conduct. That's the verb, as it were, that they use for procurements is conduct, and that burns the C. And then finally, we're short 1 manage, so call me silly, but it's probably manage stakeholder engagements. So there we go. The next step is we're going to deal with our planning. So planning, oops, I clicked a little early, but little hint there. The words that start with plan just cue off these areas here, the knowledge areas. So we're going to plan scope, we're going to plan, remember we don't say time in here, it's schedule. We're going to go ahead and plan our costs, we're going to plan our quality management, we're going to plan the HR, a little redundant here, HR resource management, so HR management, and then plan our communications. We're going to plan risk, right? And then we're also going to plan risk responses. That has another plan. That's the only one that has 2 plan elements in it. And then finally, we're going to plan our procurements and plan stakeholder management. That burns our 10 plans, and the other ones where we're going to start top to bottom and start using these letters. Actually, I indented the plans so it makes it more clear when we're using the letters. This is the big cell. This is the develop project management plans. This feeds into a lot of different things from an IDO standpoint. The next thing is going to be C. What are we going to do? Collect requirements. Then we're going to define D, define scope, and then we've got another C coming up, which is going to be create our work breakdown schedule. So again, we need 6 elements here. There's 4, 5, 6. This is done. You know that. You can go on to the time piece now. So in time, we have a D coming up, so we're going to define activities, and then we're going to sequence the activities. So we're at this S here, and then we got 2 E's coming up, and those are both estimates. Estimate activity resources, estimate activity durations, develop schedule gets our D, and then we're coming up to an E here, estimate cost. E's are often estimates, it might always be, and then determine budget, okay? And then the next thing we're going to do down here in the quality area excuse me, in the risk area is we're going to identify our risks. Then we need to actually start using P's, so that's the I up there, and then we've got 2 P's left to satisfy this, and that's going to perform both our qualitative and quantitative risk analysis.